What's up, Ragin Nation? How's it going? This is Alex Yu, and you're watching the Ragin Nation Show. This is just a web series where we're talking about all things that matter to me in the world of upcoming films. In this episode, we're going to talk about what's going on at Sony Picture Studios. Specifically, the future of the rebooted Ghostbusters franchise, and then we're going to talk about the Men in Black reboot / 23 Jump Street crossover film. What's that all about? And then we're going to talk about Bad Boys 3. Now, Sony Picture Studios has been getting themselves into a bit of a mess. And this all started a couple of years ago when they decided that they wanted to take the Amazing Spider-Man franchise into a really odd direction. I'm talking about Aunt May spin-off film, Sinister Six villains film, I guess like a Suicide Squad style film, like Reservoir Dogs style, and also a female-driven Spider-Man film. All that stuff is very, very questionable. But if it really happened, you know, I'm going to check it out. And that led to the talk about a Ghostbusters reboot franchise. That stuff was actually already going on for a very, very long time, but the next step they decided to do, which was really, really questionable, was rebooting Ghostbusters, and not only rebooting Ghostbusters, but also making it a female-driven reboot. And we all know where that went. Hey, I saw it, I enjoyed it, but the fact is that they wanted to actually make a sequel out of it. They wanted to reboot it and make it into a franchise. And based on what the distribution chief says, Ghostbusters sequel will happen. Okay, now they said that pretty early on, like in the first week of its release. They got a decent a box office result. I think it was something around like 50 million or 40-something million or something like that. And they thought it was decent. Not quite what they had hoped for, but it was decent. And based on that, they said, the Ghostbusters world is alive and well. I expect Ghostbusters to become an important brand and franchise. While nothing has been officially announced yet, there's no doubt in my mind it will happen. Okay? So that's what they said. I don't think that's happening anymore. And it makes sense because, well, first of all, the criticism. Man, this is what director Paul Feig had to say. It's such a validation for the years of false controversy. Up until then, it was just me dealing with a bunch of angry dudes. There's a whole generation of kids and young people who didn't have their own Ghostbusters. I don't know why all this was controversy leading up to this, because heroes are heroes. It doesn't matter what gender they are. Now, I kind of agree with that. It's unfortunate that it ended up being the way it ended up. And I'm talking about the controversy behind all the criticism and all the hate. That's unfortunate, all right? But I felt that it was a good movie. I enjoyed it. I love the original. The original is the best. But it doesn't look like it's going to happen because Ghostbusters is ending up being a potential $70 million loss for Sony. And the sequel is most likely dead. They're not going to take another hit like that. That is just too risky. So they're going to move on. Now, what's another project that is questionable? Well, that would be this really odd project. 23 Jump Street sequel that is actually a Men in Black reboot. I'm talking about rebooting it without Agent J and Agent K, played by Tommy Lee Jones and Will Smith. They're going to have new actors playing those characters. It will be rebooted, but they're going to join forces with 21 or 23 Jump Street. Apparently Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill are in this, okay? But Jonah Hill doesn't think it's going to happen. Here's what he had to say. I had the idea, but I doubt that movie will ever get made. They're trying to make all these deals, but it's kind of impossible with all the Men in Black stuff. The Jump Street films were so fun to make, and the whole joke of them was that they were making fun of remakes and sequels and reboots, and then now it's becoming a giant sequel reboot. It's almost become what we were making fun of, and it's hard to maintain that joke when it's so high stakes. And what he means by all of that is that the 21 Jump Street franchise was really just there to make fun of all of these reboots and remakes, but once you start making it a reality, like bringing something as high profile as Men in Black into that, you're kind of just, you're taking it too literally. And it doesn't feel right. And I agree with that. It doesn't feel right. Why on earth would you bring these two films together. Reboot Men in Black. Make a 23 Jump Street sequel. Don't bring them together. It doesn't make sense. And this is another one of those things that Sony is doing that makes themselves look like they have no clue as to what they're doing. Now, one thing that they do know what they're doing with is Bad Boys. And I'm talking about Bad Boys sequel. Now, there were quite a few delays, I suppose, because originally Bad Boys 3 and 4 were supposed to happen on these two dates. February 17, 2017, which is really only half a year from now. And also Bad Boys 4 was going to come out on July 3rd, 2019. Now, they locked in these dates, but obviously that's not happening anymore. Will Smith is still going around promoting Suicide Squad in the rest of the world, and they haven't even filmed anything for Bad Boys 3. It is not happening in 2017. There's no way they're going to make that date. But they secured a new date, and that would be January 12th, 2018. And not only that, they have a title for it, Bad Boys for Life. Will Smith, Martin Lawrence are back. January 12th, 2018, Bad Boys 3 is coming, retitled Bad Boys for Life. No word on Bad Boys 4. If they're going to make a Bad Boys 4, they might as well film it back to back. But as of now, Bad Boys for Life is happening, coming on January 12th, 2018, and which is essentially 16 years, or rather 15 years after the second one. Bad Boys 2 came out in 2003. 15 years later, we finally got Bad Boys for Life. And if they film it back to back, they can make it for that July 3rd, 2019 release for the 4th installment, if they decide to do that. Now let's see what Joe Carnahan, the director, has to say about that. It's no longer Michael Bay, it's now Joe Carnahan, who directed Smokin' Aces, which was a great film. But anyways, he said, we couldn't all get in a room, go through this thing, and really wring it out. I'm a big believer in do the work at the script level until you got something you know works, that everyone is happy with, the stars are happy with, the director's happy with, the studio is happy with. So they're on the right track. You gotta have a strong script. And that was one of the problems with the production of Bad Boys 3 throughout all those years. They just didn't have a strong enough script. Now keep in mind, the script obviously was not the strong point for either of the first two Bad Boys films. It was really, really visually driven in terms of Michael Bay's action and Will Smith and Martin Lawrence's chemistry. That's all it was. And a lot of that chemistry was all ad-libbed, not even scripted. So Joe Carnahan apparently has something to offer that the Bad Boys first two films don't have, and that is a really, really strong script. It's going to be character-driven, story-driven, as well as action-driven, and of course they're going to keep it a hard R rating, just like the previous one was. And I'm looking forward to it. It's finally happening. Bad Boys for Life, Bad Boys 3, is coming out on January 12th, 2018. Joe Carnahan is directing, the boys are back, and I'm excited for it. So that's official. Anyways, what do you guys feel about the other films? 23 Jump Street, Men in Black reboot, that's a bad idea. It was a bad idea to begin with. Ghostbusters reboot, female-driven? I mean, the reboot itself, never mind the whole gender equality thing, the reboot itself was a bad idea, and I was completely against the idea. I watched it anyways. It was a good film. But still, it doesn't matter how I feel about it. I always thought it was a bad idea to begin with, because the original is so good that why mess with the classic? I mean, they didn't mess up the classic. What I would have loved to see, or rather enjoyed more, would be a sequel with the original cast in it. That would have worked better, right? But reboot, it kind of was it was a powder keg just waiting to explode, and it did, and not in a good way. So the sequel isn't happening. How do you guys feel about that? I'm excited for Bad Boys 3. Bring it. Anyways, that's all I gotta say in this video. As always, if you enjoyed this, it's not a review, it's an update. If you enjoyed this update, hit the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, like me on Facebook, The Ragin Nation. Also follow me on Twitter, Ragin Nation. My name's Alex. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace. Which leads me to talk about Enchantress, played by Cara Delevingne, and poor casting choice. Her character is like very mystical.